Undergraduate Theological Society, UT Nursing Student Association, Undergraduate Studies Council.
We're now going to move on to organizational announcements. With Louis Stahl, on behalf of Kaplan, please come forward to give these announcements.
So hi, my name is Louis Stahl. I'm a senior here at UT, and I'm here tonight representing Kaplan Test Prep, which I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard of. It's the test prep company that will prepare you for any of these graduate admissions tests that you can see at the top of your flyer. And tonight, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we do, but mostly talk to you about our upcoming practice test, which will be here on campus on Saturday. So first, just why you should prep for graduate admissions tests to begin with. Regardless of what kind of school you're going to, whether it's medical school, law school, whatever it is, these tests are by far the most important part of your application. So it's going to sort you into the pile that basically gets you admitted automatically, that gets you looked at more in depth, or almost automatically rejected. So these are what will sort you out from all of your competition in law school. Not law school, graduate school. And the reason why you should prep with Kaplan is because there's a few things that make us pretty unique compared to a lot of the other companies. One is the fact that all of our teachers are experts. They have to actually take the test, score at least a 90th percentile or higher. A lot of them have scored almost towards the 99th percentile. So they really are experts on the test, regardless of what test you would be prepping for. Also, we have something that's called the higher score guarantee, which means that on your first class day, you'll take a diagnostic test or your real full-length test. And then when you're done with the course, you'll take the test for real. If you score a lower score on your real test than you did on your diagnostic, then you can get your money back, or you can repeat the class for free. Or if the test date is approaching and you just don't feel comfortable enough to take the test, you can also repeat the class for free. So it's guaranteed that your score will improve. So just a little bit about the practice test that's coming out on this Saturday, February 25th. It's totally free to take. You don't have to be part of a Kaplan class or anything. Although, if you're looking to take a class, signing up for a class that day, this Saturday, will give you some of the biggest discounts that we have all year. Especially if you're looking to be LSAT, we have a $200 off promotion that's going on, which you can add to the discount that you would get just by taking the test. So you can get up to probably about $300 off if you're looking for an LSAT course. And for a different test, with Pleasure, you can just add that to the discount that you would already get by taking the test. So if you're interested in taking this test, it's this Saturday on campus. You can go ahead and fill out one of these information cards, and be sure to check over here which test you'd be interested in. And what's really important is that you check this box right here, which will sign you up for the practice test. If you don't feel like you want to sign up for it right now and want to know a little bit more, you can go to the link that's at the bottom of the flyer. But since it is only 2 days from now, I would recommend going ahead and filling this out in order to guarantee yourself a spot. You can also show up that day, but you won't be necessarily guaranteed a spot. So if you can go ahead and fill those out now, I will pick them up. Also, if you are not interested in practice tests right now, but just want to know a little bit more about Kaplan in general, you can go ahead and fill out the card. You just don't check the part about the test. And in your email, you'll get information about upcoming classes and discounts that come out throughout the year. So it's a good thing to get on. And finally, for each one of these cards that gets filled out tonight, Kaplan will donate $1 to Doctors Without Borders, which is a great organization which sends doctors to countries around the world, mostly impoverished countries, to help out children. So we'll be helping out a great cause as well. So if you want to go ahead and fill these out, I'll just walk up and down the aisle and collect them. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
We're now going to move on to the special report. There is not one this evening in the event of elections and not keeping you here until 10 p.m. at night. So we're going to move on to regular guests. Is there a representative from the Graduate Student Assembly present? There's Manny Levy.
So first and foremost, I apologize for not being here for a while. It's been hectic. This conference season, which is not as glamorous as wedding season, but still, grad school. First and foremost, we had a meeting, or I had a meeting with Pete Grayson of the College of Liberal Arts recently. There's a big interest right now at the College of Liberal Arts to create some sort of Liberal Arts Council-esque type of organization for the graduate students within COLA. And so we are going to be holding an open forum next Wednesday at 5 p.m. in the fourth floor of the Ballard conference room for graduate students in the College of Liberal Arts who want to, vent and discuss, possible organizational type structures. And hopefully Hank will be there, and anybody else. I don't plan to go to the spot.
I'll be there, yeah.
Okay. Hank and other COLA members will be there just to help, provide some insight as to how COLA functions and how perhaps this graduate Liberal Arts Council work in conjunction with the current Liberal Arts Council. So that's a big one. So if you could, if you're a Liberal Arts Council or a Liberal Arts student, reach out to your TAs and AIs and see if they have any interest. And again, it's Wednesday next week, 29th, 5 p.m. In the fourth floor of the Ballard. In terms of some other big items that we've been working on, tobacco-free policy. We've been working in conjunction with Senate and SG on how to, implement this across campus, what it will look like. From a graduate student standpoint, what we're really concerned about is graduate student housing, and whether or not non-academic buildings such as graduate student housing contractor rates are going to be included in that policy. Whether that be the apartments as graduate career services is another big item that we made a lot of headway on. The new interim dean, Dean Langlois, for the graduate school, she's on board with, moving forward and creating new graduate career services, both for graduate students who are interested in academic type jobs, in terms of tenure track faculty positions, and then non-academic jobs for those PhD students and master's students who no longer want to get into research and have enough of it. And so we're making a lot of headway on that. If you're interested about that or interested about what you can do with a PhD, feel free to talk to me, and we can actually invite you to a forum meeting that we're going to have. The GSA 5K is April 1st. This is open to all students and all family, all community members. And so if you're interested in training for the SG 10K, the Longhorn Run, which would be 2 weeks later, April 14th, we'd love to have you. It's a easy way to train for this 10K or whatever distance the Longhorn Run is. We'll send some promotional materials to Senate or First to send that out to everybody else. And kind of like with the other elections, GSA elections are right around the corner. That being said, we only have one candidate for president and vice president, and so barring any type of big SGS disqualification, sorry, it's been a lot of drama that I've followed, so fun. We have, our GSA president kind of in line. His name is Michael Reddy, and not Jameson, but he will be a great GSA president for the future. I'm sure he's here right now, but I'll give a little bit of background information and let him introduce himself later on. But he's from the high school and he's very involved. He did undergrad here, so you'll see his face soon enough. But yes, barring any huge travesty, we know who our GSA leadership will be next year. So again, thank you all. Make sure to cherish the few that you have left before I off the bat.
Thank you, Manny.
Hello, everybody. A few quick things. So student government met on Tuesday and passed a piece of legislation and put a piece of legislation back toward committee. We passed a piece of legislation in support of sort of re-examining the way that PTS and Capital Metro does advertisement on the university buses. Right now, they're all reserved for student groups. The student groups can use those for free, but a lot of them are going unused. And potentially there might be some room to increase revenues for PTS and services by selling advertisements on the bus. There's still going to be the majority reserved for student groups, but selling for the ones that are left over and not used by student groups to try and increase revenue. So that's something the student government's looking into. We also passed a resolution in support of a comprehensive room reservation system. We have already accomplished in building a comprehensive room reservation database. So now you'll be able to log on and look at all of the rooms that are available on campus to be reserved. But what we're working on still is getting buy-in from all of the campus entities that own rooms to let them turn over their reservation systems to one system so that you don't have to go to like 7 different places to reserve rooms on campus. So that's a little bit more challenging because that requires all of the entities letting someone else kind of handle all of their facilities. But joining the slowly making progress on that particular pass a resolution and support that initiative. You don't want business to we're going to do rough for you. You're smiling at me. We'll talk. It's fine. Student government also put 3 resolutions back for committee. One is our first round of spring appropriations. Our appropriations deadline for the second round is February 29th if you're interested. There's also a piece of legislation in support of banning the use of antibacterial soap on campus. This is actually already slowly being phased in on campus. Antibacterial soap, according to our LBJ representative in student government, it's bad for wildlife, it's bad for the environment, and it's not any safer for you than non-antibacterial soap. And so the university is actually already moving toward this. We just wanted to kind of support it and make sure that it kept moving along. So that is in committee. If you have thoughts on that, let me know. Let any representatives know. And then there's also another resolution in support of making ECIS and CIS results online easier to find through registration. So a few things that we're working on. As Manny referenced, our elections have been a little bit interesting, but voting is next week, so I encourage you all to get educated on all the candidates and vote if whoever is available to be elected. A few things that have come up. As you all saw last week in the campus, so I emailed the graduation rate staff. The graduation rate staff will release their report. There were several major applications. I encourage you all to take the time to read that. It is kind of long, but the front end of the report that really summarizes everything is only about 20 pages. The rest of it's really just data. So take the time to read it. We're really excited about a lot of the things. The big thing that we're looking forward to working on is orientation. Student government's already kind of been in the process and talks about working on orientation, trying to improve the orientation process for student organizations and integrating more university experience. So now that that report has really supported that, SG is going to get a lot more involved in helping to sort of reshape orientation to help it meet the needs. So if you have thoughts on that or anything else there, let me know. Or I know there are several Senate members and left members that sat on the task force. Really good stuff coming out of that. If you have thoughts on a university-wide mobility strategy, so basically like iPhone apps, iPad apps, Android, BlackBerry, basically how you interact with the university on any internet-enabled device that's not a computer. The campus is kind of going through an overall mobility strategy. Right now, there's really just the iPhone app, and it's great. There are a lot of good things about it, but it can be improved, and there really needs to be an overall strategy for how mobility is going to work on campus. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm working with them to try and improve the safety app. I'm also working in Texas to help them build their own iPhone app for young alumni. But if you have thoughts on things that you want to see globally accessible for students, let me know. Union Board has a meeting tomorrow, and Union Board elections are also within the general student body elections, and so definitely check out the Union Board candidates. Tuition, the regions have not scheduled a meeting to talk about tuition. Their next scheduled meeting is the first week of May. It's not on the agenda yet. We will let you all know if it is, but there hasn't been a meeting scheduled anytime in March or April to talk about tuition. So I'm still waiting for more information. I don't have any yet, but we will keep you all abreast of whatever is happening with that decision. I know the CT guys are really invested in everything that's going to happen there. On top of that, I'm sitting on a task force down in the system about reducing the student debt burden for students across the system. We have our first meeting tomorrow morning for 4 hours, so that should be fun. But hopefully there will be some really interesting things that come out about that, about keeping the student debt burden low. The chancellor's goal is for this task force, which has a lot of people that are national experts, to kind of make some big picture recommendations that we can apply across the country. So it should be really interesting. I'll definitely come back to you all for thoughts and feedback. And the last thing, totally on top of this, everything that happens is a long run. I told SG that if anyone wants to run with me, they totally can. Try to beat me. It's like a challenge. I'm not super fast. It's really not going to be that hard. But Chris and I are going to go running together. We've already made this commitment to come to the Long Run. It's going to be much more running with us. So it's April 14th. Sign up at utlongterrun.com. Totally non-SG related pitch. I'm the chair of the Friar Society's Centennial Teaching Fellowship Award this year. So I'm breaking protocol here because I'm chair for it. But if you know of any awesome undergraduate faculty, or faculty that teach undergraduates that are tenured or tenure tracked, consider nominating them for the Friar Society's Centennial Teaching Award. It's the largest award given by students for excellence in teaching, $25,000 award to a professor. And the students are the ones that select the award, and we get nominations from all over campus. So check out the FriarSociety.org to get that application. We also sent it out on campus by email, so check that out. That was kind of a long report. I apologize for rambling, but y'all have any questions?
Now, moving to move on to executive reports, I have just a few things. First, Roberto from Student Engineering Council is going to give the update on what the President's Committee covered last Thursday. So, Roberto.
Thanks, guys. I'll try to make this quick because I know we have a lot to do tonight. So I'm just going to cover these Really quick bullet points. We had a really fun president's meeting last week. We laughed, we talked, we discussed, but we were productive. So we talked about SR 1111, which I think we're putting on tonight on the agenda, and SR 1113, and how that was going to, I guess, I cannot read where I wrote down my notes, so I'm sorry. I'll try and type it up. But we also met with the advising ad hoc committee, and they asked us some questions, but our thoughts and feedback. How we tied in with the big elephant in the room, which is graduation rates. How we can improve our four-year graduation rates here. President Power sent out an email last Wednesday, I believe, or 2 weeks ago, on what the task force recommendations were, and we had a discussion among small colleges about how we could improve our graduation rates within each college. That took up a lot of our time, and hopefully there will be a continuation of that on that discussion as starting the class of 2016, just incoming freshman class, trying to get them to start aiming at four-year graduation rates and beyond. So just be on the lookout for that. Hopefully another president will make a report at our next General Assembly. And then finally, CTVAX. So the CTVAX are doing their thing. They should be getting paid their student budget priorities from each college. They'll be collecting that throughout the semester. So that's about it.
Thank you. The next announcement I have is the Mighty Working Group met last Wednesday. It's a bunch of stakeholders from around campus, and everyone from administrators to faculty members to student representatives. And in this meeting, we really discussed the charge of that working group and how we plan to interact with the CEO of Mighty VU, Michael Krosno, as well as with just the university community in general and getting feedback and thoughts. So this conversation will continue. We're actually meeting with Mighty VU at our next task force meeting to go over more specifics of what their vision for the company is and sort of the types of resources that they're hoping to provide for students in the future. So I'll keep you guys all updated. It was a pretty big picture. Where are we? What is our jurisdiction on this issue kind of meeting? So I'll keep you updated as more specifics will follow. The Academic Integrity Task Force met last Friday, and we're meeting again this Friday. We'll have 3 speakers this Friday that are discussing a variety of issues on academic integrity and the honor code. I know there are lots of reinvigorated conversations in the task force about how we're going to move forward with the honor code, whether it's rewording it, whether it's remarketing it. So if you have thoughts on that, we'll definitely be fleshing that out a little bit more in the president's meeting, but feel free as always to send me any thoughts or suggestions that you have on that particular topic. Again, we're still in the process of education, so I don't have too many specific updates for you right now. The other thing is regarding task force on graduation rates follow-up. You'll all receive the task force report in your inboxes. Take a peek at that and really try to delve in there and see what kinds of things that you think are important or not important. Senate will be working on its formal response to that. Emily and I will also be meeting with University Communications in upcoming weeks to discuss the Integrate, Educate, Graduate sort of slogan and what this looks like socially and culturally for students and how we can continue to drive that culture. I did, in a meeting with Vice Provost Ritter, we did express sort of student concern that came up in the President's meeting regarding this culture of graduation rates, why it's important, and how do we get people on board, and should we be trying to get people on board. So that whole entire conversation will be part of our meeting with University Communications and that more social culture part of that. And we're also going to be continuing to follow up on who we need to, which table and which conversations we need to be a part of regarding the various implementation committees, whether it be orientation, advising, just this cultural big picture question. So as we get more feedback on those particular avenues that we can have as students to the table, I'll be getting back to you guys on feedback and then perhaps asking some of y'all to sit at the table for Senate and your students during those meetings. So stay abreast of all of those issues and do read the report if you haven't yet. The last thing that I have that's not on the agenda, I apologize. The Career Services Working Group is meeting next Wednesday. The representatives from our assembly, as well as myself and Natalie Butler, will be sitting in on that meeting. Dean Woodard has been incredibly exceptional at responding to any questions that students have ahead of time. So I've prepared a document of all of the questions that were raised in President's Committee. If you have those questions yourself, please feel free to forward them to me. He responded within 2 or 3 hours with his response to those questions. And those will definitely guide and lead our conversation in the working group itself. So if you have thoughts, questions, suggestions, anything that you'd like me to bring to the table, please let me know. With that, Emily, do you have anything for, no, Bargoff, appropriations?
Hey y'all, so I've got 3 quick updates, 2 of which are on the agenda, so I apologize for that. First is, if you can turn to the penultimate page, the actual last page with the front side of it, you'll see a kind of breakdown of appropriations. So in the spirit of continuing to be transparent, I just wanted to let you all know that that's what your financial directors and the 3 presidents that sat in decided to allocate. So again, the total was a little less than $3,000. That was a little bit more than we had budgeted and planned originally, but we should ultimately fall within our guidelines for the end of the year. We allocated a little less than 10,000 black and white copies. So anytime during this update, if you have any questions that you can come up with, feel free to let me know or catch me after meeting and ask me some questions. The second thing is tomorrow's spending workshop is from 10 to 11 in the SAC Senate SG conference room. So any organizations that you know applied, if you want to come out to the spending workshop, this is another opportunity for us to essentially help the organizations that applied for appropriations spend their money, again, because we want to make sure that they're fully utilizing the resources that Senate has to offer. And then my third update is on behalf of the CT Background Table. We met today, and I just wanted to kind of go over briefly what we're working on now. So Roberto touched upon this, which is our big push right now is for college-specific budget priorities in the student level. Another push that we are making and starting to come up with goals on is the university-wide budget priorities initiative. Basically, the idea is on a college level, you guys do a great job of representing your college-specific interests and the student-specific interests, but there are some things like facility, energy resources, which are shared by the entire university, that if college CTBACs can come together and pool our resources and put our heads together, we can actually come up with a few recommendations. And the final thing is Carissa and Natalie are actually working on the campus climate survey right now, so they're developing questions, and CTBAC leaders already know about this, but if you have any questions about that process or questions that you would like to be asked in the campus climate survey itself, feel free to contact Carissa. Any questions about appropriations throughout that process? Any questions at all? All right, thank you guys.
Okay, guys, just one last plug for Senate Tees. This is happening this coming Tuesday at 5 in the SAC Black Box Theater. That's going to be just to the left, my left, your right of this room. The topic is going to be financial aid, so kind of continuing with the whole tuition and affordability of college issue that's been going on this year. Dr. Tom Balecki from the Office of Student Financial Aid Services will be there to answer any questions and give a brief presentation about how the financial aid process works. And I talked to him earlier this week, and he's really excited to hear y'all's feedback and y'all's council's feedback about these issues. And one thing that he'd like to look at in particular is how to make the financial aid process more transparent and accessible to students. So if you guys have any thoughts on that or any questions that you'd like to ask him or like to pose to the audience, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email address is on the agenda, and we will see you there at 5.
So this week we had a really interesting week. It's Integrity UT week, and Michelle actually recommended that her whole committee be recognized. So Michelle and Andrew got to come up here, and if the whole academic integrity committee could stand, they have a few words to share about that.
So happy Integrity UT, y'all, week. So anyways, all of them have been working so incredibly hard that we couldn't nominate one, so we nominated them all. So I'm just going to go through and say a couple of things about all of them. Samantha Allen brings the intensity to AIC. She always is on time to meetings and events and ready to go. If you've seen the core value wristbands, that was Samantha, and she did a fantastic job with them. Janice, who's taking a chem test right now, I think. She can watch the video. Janice always brings a smile to the committee, especially when we need it the most. She's always encouraging and does a fantastic job of balancing her schoolwork and commitment to Senate. Mary Marks? There she is. Okay. Mary's a phenomenal role model for the committee. As a senior, she has dedicated much time and energy to the committee and Integrity UT Week. Her passion for promoting integrity was apparent from the beginning of the year, and she never ceases to amaze me and inspiring others to care as well. Shahana, also taking a this exam. Shahana has been the perfect amount of sassiness and drive for AIC. She loves to be our comedic relief, but she's also responsible for several of the great ideas that have originated from the committee. She's always ready to go the extra mile for the committee, and her passion for Senate and integrity has definitely shown throughout the year. Robert Belanger. Robert is one of the hardest workers I know. He's passionate about every commitment he makes, and his determination to affect change on campus is inspiring to say the least. He takes each task with a smile and always completes it even better than we expected. Robert has undoubtedly been an incredible asset not only to AIC, but Senate as a whole. Thank you, guys. Are there any other executive updates? All right, we're going to move on to unfinished business. Would the authors of SR 1111 please come forward to get a brief update of changes that have been made?
Hello, just a few quick updates, I guess, on resolve statement 62, or on line 62, I should say, and resolve 77. The italics to use is the changes that have been made, are the changes that have been made. The only other changes are grammatical, pointed out by Marcus from GPAC. So,
All right, we'll now move on to discussion debate before an open session. Any thoughts from council?
Should be rid of the 3-year timeline there.
yes, we had these legislative workshops this past week and talked a lot, or I guess they were 2 weeks ago, it was a while ago. Talked a lot about how the council thought this piece of legislation was a bit too stringent. They thought that 3 years was locking the constitution to something that they may not want. So that was suggested to us through the council.
Just a reminder that discussion and debate is strictly designed to pose commentary that you have, but if you do have a question, it's an absolute essence you are free to ask it. So any other comments? Not even with your council rationale for the way you voted to.
Yes.
Is there a motion to end discussion and debate? Is there a second? All those in favor of ending discussion and debate, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, all those abstaining, we're now going to move on to vote on SR 1111. And is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All those in favor of SR 1111, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? The chair sees the division and would like to call a roll call vote if possible. So, congrats. Communication Council? Education Council? Nay. Local Arts Council? National Science Council? Pharmacy Council? Social Work Council? Student Engineering Council? Supervisor Architecture? Supervisor Business? UT Nursing? Supervisor Studies? Is there anyone on this? Engineering Council?
Graduate Engineering Council.
MPA Council is here for the record. We didn't hear you when you called.
All right, and Pat, what's your vote?
Aye.
Undergraduate Geological Society? And Graduate Engineering Council? Graduate Public Affairs Council?
Aye.
Right, is everyone concurrent? All right, the motion carries and SR 1111 passes. All right, we're now going to move on to SR 1113. The authors, please come forward to give a brief presentation. All right, we'll now open the floor to discussion and debate. Does anyone have thoughts on SR 1113? All right, there's a motion on the floor to end discussion and debate. Second, all those in favor of ending discussion and debate, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, all those abstaining. All right, we're now going to move on to the motion to approve. Is there a motion to approve? Second. All right, All those in favor of SR 1113, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining? All right, SR 1113 passes. We're now going to move on to new business. Seeing none, we'll move on to the agency reports. I see Jordan Humphrey is here from DINTEC.
But I did want to give you a quick update. I met with Michael Sweet. He is the director for instructional development for the Center for Teaching and Learning at the university. So he's the person who helps faculty create courses that are more engaging and help students learn better. We met on last Friday. He, among other things, gave support to DINTEX during the course creation process, in advising students, and in creating a framework to create courses that have more academic merit than society. Today. And also he provided the consultation services that faculty get if they give a mid-semester evaluation and they realize, oh, wow, students are really not picking up on the things that I want them to, or if they are dealing with a course and they're not really sure how to convey information, they have consulting services within the Center for Teaching and Learning, and he offers those subjects as well. So the program will, just in case you're still on the fence, thinking about for a year from now, there's definitely there are resources to help you create your classes. So also there are applications for DINTEX leadership positions. They will be on the website probably, I'm guessing, at 9 o'clock. They are due March 26th, so I don't know, see how your next academic year is looking for you. Check out the application. It should be fairly short, and let me know if you have any questions.
Are there any additional agency reports? Seeing none, we're going to move on to council announcements. Do any council have announcements at this time? Upcoming events? Yes.
This is not for an upcoming event, but Graduate Engineering Council wants to thank the Senate, especially for Lisa, Jeff, and all the students and volunteers for helping us out with graduate and industry networking festival. Thanks a lot for the help.
Any other council announcements? Yes, Michael.
I have a very important announcement on behalf of the Undergraduate Business Council. In the spirit of professionalism, I would like to let everyone here know that we will be performing at Texas Review.
Congratulations. I see Michelle and Andrew have an integrity TV update.
Good evening. So, as I'm sure we've told you 100 times by now, this week was Integrity UT Week, and we did a lot of really great things. I guess first we'll start off. We tabled for 3 days this week, and we gave away what I believe to be, don't quote me, but a record number of T-shirts for a Senate event with 1,500. Anybody? I see. If you have an Integrity U T-shirt, don't we stand up? Shirts. I hope everybody had a chance to swing by when we're tabling, pick up a shirt, sign the honor code board, which is also very, very impressive. So Michelle's going to talk a little about some of the events.
So just briefly, so on Tuesday we had Margaret Sevier here. It was absolutely wonderful. She was in the SEC auditorium. Just a few takeaways. One, go to class. Not that any of us have. Two, be on time, and three, go to graduate school. So congratulations, graduate process. And then the second event was it was the student improv last night, and that was really great as well. So if you came out to that, thank you very much. And also the library put on a plagiarism class, which I hear was very interesting. And then tonight we had a case study with some of the dorms and the RAs. So it's been a successful week. Thank you so much for all of your support, and we hope you had a great week as well. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I see that Brian and Jamie have to make their undergraduate research. Hi everyone, Jane had to leave early, so I'm going to make this really quick. Just another reminder that the undergraduate research grant is due Friday, March 23rd by 5 p.m. So please help to spread the word and encourage any student researchers that you know to apply. It's a $1,000 award, and you can find the application online at the website provided. The second update is the research reception. Each year, the Undergraduate Research Committee hosts this reception to honor excellence in undergraduate research. Save the date cards were sent out, and invitations are to follow in the coming weeks. We'd love to have all of the council presidents attend, or perhaps just a delegate from your council to see what the event's like. It should be really nice. It'll be a cocktail reception followed by an award ceremony in the SAC ballroom, so the date and time is on there. The third update, undergraduate researcher for a day. This is an individual initiative from one of our committee members. She kind of got the idea from MBA for a day, seeing the success of that. But instead concentrating on undergraduate research, so pairing a current student researcher with a prospective undergraduate researcher. So that should be pretty exciting, and more details are to come. The date is March 20th, and a luncheon will be provided and all that. And then final update, it's actually two things, RSAC and our research certificate. RSAC, we held a meeting last Friday. Thank you guys very much for the council that did attend. We really do encourage more council involvement if you guys are interested. Just a couple things that came out of that meeting. We planned our student panel event for Research Week, which is all about getting involved in research through student organizations that facilitate that process for students. So it should be pretty exciting. We have some pretty good speakers coming as well. Talk about the reception, how to get involved in that, and the details for that as well. And then finally, the certificate. We are currently meeting with you guys. If you have received an email from us, we really do appreciate a response. We really look forward to working with you guys and kind of planning out our next steps in terms of meeting with advisors and administrators. We have some administrative meetings coming up as well. This isn't on the agenda, but I just wanted to congratulate AIC once again on a successful Integrity UT Week. It was really cool to see both internal and external really come together. So that's it. Thank you so much. Any other committee updates? Yes, Bala.
Hey guys, sorry, my name is Bala from Outreach Development. Really quick update, we are going to have our first ever alumni reunion for Senate on April 14th at 6:30. You don't need to write that down now because we're still working on it, but just want to let you know, for those of you that are graduating, look forward and we will be in touch.
All right, we're going to move on to ad hoc updates. Laura Wright from the Advising Ad Hoc.
Hi, the Advising Ad Hoc did meet last Sunday. We had such a great discussion that we decided to meet again this Sunday. So February 26th, 5 p.m. in the Senator SG conference room. We've got a lot to talk about as far as the graduation rates task force. They just issued this the report, and they talked about creating a freshman advising center that all incoming freshmen would be funneled into. That's a really interesting topic. We'd love to talk about it, and we will be on Sunday in the conference room at 5 p.m. If you can't make it, but you'd still like to get notes, I know I sent them out to a few of you, feel free to email me. My email is listed under the committee curriculum committee. So, thanks, guys.
And we're now going to move on to university-wide appointment updates. We have two for today. Jeff Stevens, if you want to come from the International Education College.
Hello again, everybody. I am one of the Senate's university-wide appointments to the International Education Fee Scholarship Committee. And Ann and Andrew from the Academic Enrichment Committee, I believe, are on there as well. So y'all are, feel free to jump in if I misspeak about anything, or if you want to add something. So the summer after my freshman year, I studied abroad in Edinburgh, Scotland, through the business school. I did a business law program there. Super interesting. Highly recommend if there are any, for the other people in the room, studying abroad is one of the best things I've done here at UT. One of the other great opportunities with study abroad becomes financial aid. So you can see up on the screen here that there are a wealth of opportunities, really, if you want to apply for some scholarships. I serve on the one that's kind of in the middle of the screen. It's the IEFS scholarship. And what that does, it's awarded to students who do either a Maymester or a summer semester abroad. And I was graciously awarded that, so I decided to come back and start on the committee. It's really interesting because we get to review some of the applications for the students who are going on. A lot of the, I guess there are some service learning programs included in that. There's some programs all around England and Europe and in Asia as well. So seeing students really wanting to connect study abroad to their education experience is really rewarding. So we actually don't meet as a committee, which is pretty interesting. We do all of our correspondence electronically, and the applications are coming due March 1st, so that means I'm going to have quite a few applications to get through and rate. And if anyone is studying abroad, I highly encourage you in this last week before the applications are due to definitely apply, and hopefully you get some funding to support you on your studies abroad. So thank you very much.
I am co-chair of Senate's Curriculum Committee, and I'm also one of Senate's appointments to the Educational Policy Committee of Faculty Council. And just to give you a little idea, an idea of what this committee is about, Faculty Council is responsible for passing any changes to the undergraduate curriculum at UT, and most of these changes either have to go through President Powers or sometimes through the system, depending on what the policy in question deals with. And the Educational Policy Committee is one of 13 standing committees that deals with institutional or governance policy at UT. It's made up of about 10 faculty members and 4 students. 3 of them are appointed by Senate. And what we've been working on this year is we talked about the recommendations of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, which we had a presentation on at the General Assembly earlier this year. We talked about UT's new one-time exception policy, and we are currently in discussions about that. We also talked about revisions to the core writing flags. In the core curriculum, we talked about, as curriculum passed the legislation on the electronic course instructor surveys, we've been dealing with that issue. And we haven't met so far this semester, but we have just elected a new chair. So, and hopefully we'll be getting into it, and I'll keep you guys updated on what else we go this semester.
Move on to the election portion of this evening. I wanted to first recognize 2 of our alums that are in the room, Drew Finke as well as Reed Long. And I don't know, are there any other alums present? Just shout out to you guys. Thanks so much for coming. And for the elections themselves, I will yield the floor to our election committee chair, Andrew Wilson, who will be presiding over the election. So, Andrew.
Hi everybody, as Carissa said, my name is Andrew Wilson. I serve as the Policy Committee Chair within LAC and now as the Election Committee Chair for Senate. Because there is a new election code, we'll just go over the process really quickly. Each candidate will have 5 minutes to speak, followed by 3 minutes of question and answer time. And then after all candidates have had that opportunity, all candidates for that position will leave the room. There will be 5 minutes of discussion and debate. At that time, you'll be issued ballots, and then I'll go over the ballot tabulation in just a second. Then we'll step out and tabulate everything and come in. The ballots are a little bit different this year. Each council only receives 1 vote, but 40% of that vote comes from how your council voted, and then 20% comes from how the financial director, president, and Senate representative vote collectively. In the event of a drop down, there is a change of policy. We'll go over that if it happens. So we'll go ahead and begin with the presidential candidates and Michael Ward.
Thank you, Andrew. Let me first say that I'm truly honored and humbled to be nominated for the position of President of the Senate College Councils. These past 2 weeks of meeting one-on-one with many of you and visiting councils have been incredibly enriching for me, and I want to thank all of you for your willingness to sit down and discuss how we can improve Senate and the university and make sure that we are representing the students to the best of our abilities. For the past 3 years, I've had the joy and honor of serving as a part of Senate, and I've seen our organization grow to what it is today. We've gone through trials and tribulations and have come up stronger and have continually worked to make sure students are having their voices heard and that UT Austin continues to improve and remain a university of the first class. However, despite our efforts, we still face many issues on this campus that need to be addressed and focused on. Our university faces many challenges and obstacles, from a need to reform our core curriculum to increasing four-year graduation rates, while at the same time allowing students to pursue their interests, to decrease funding from the state for higher education. These challenges need to be faced head-on, and Senate needs to face them with students in mind. But while I've talked in council meetings and in personal conversations about my vision to reform our core curriculum, focus on UT's competitiveness, and focus on a larger presence at the Capitol, tonight I want to talk about Senate's culture and how we will bridge the gap between our organization and the student body. Over the past 2 years, I've served as Senate's communication director. I've not only worked to support councils and increase Senate's presence and branding on campus, but also to make sure that we are the most transparent organization on campus and that we are continually seeking new and innovative ways to reach out to the student body. In these past 2 years, we've taken tremendous strides to improving Senate's transparency and accessibility, from becoming the only organization to live stream its meetings to releasing our budget online. But we still have a long way to go, particularly with how we interact with councils and the student body as a whole. In every single one of my one-on-one meetings with council presidents and Senate representatives, the lack of cohesion between internal Senate and external Senate has been a focus of concern. Far too long, internal and external Senate have been separated, and there has been a gap in communication and accessibility. As president, I will decrease that gap and make sure that we are reaching out to councils and communicating effectively what Senate is doing, and also making sure that we are listening to the councils and their members. Not only will I decrease that gap between internal Senate and councils, but we will change how we connect with students who are not in councils or in internal Senate. We will reach out and visit student organizations and not sell Senate, but form relationships with these students. We need to make sure that they know that Senate is there for them, because far too long, Senate has had the ideology that students will come to us with their problems. If I'm elected tonight, that ideology will end. We need to reach out, we need to be the ones to reach out to students and foster an inclusive culture of accessibility and openness. Tonight's election is not about policy. Tonight's election is not about what is on a one-pager. Tonight's election is about the culture of the organization and how we build cohesion within Senate and how we build relationships and trust with the rest of the student body and how we connect the university and move it forward. Almost 2 years ago, I was with former President Chelsea Adler editing an editorial she had written for the Daily Texan regarding Senate's 37th anniversary. The editorial was well written, but it was simply lacking a closing line. That is when I came up with what has become kind of an unofficial motto for Senate. What starts here changes the university. I firmly believe that what starts in this body and what starts in councils does change this university. And my friends, tonight you have the opportunity to create change once again. Tonight, what starts here will reform core curriculum. Tonight, what starts here will improve advising and will take a sensible approach to four-year graduation rates. Tonight, what starts here increases the student presence at the Capitol. Tonight, what starts here increases accessibility, improves Senate's transparency, and sets forth an inclusive culture where all students are represented and where we are united as an organization and we are reaching out to students to make sure their voices are heard. Tonight, what starts here will change the university, and with your support, I want to be that person leading the charge, and I believe that we can make the University of Texas at Austin a better place for the future generations. Thank you very much.
At this time, Emily Van Dude.
Point of order. We actually move on directly to question and answer after.
I'm sorry about that. There will be a 3-minute question and answer session.
You talked a lot about bridging the gap between internal Senate and external Senate, and I'm curious about some action items and specifics on how we do that.
What I want to do is I want to meet with every college council at least once a semester. If there's a particular topic or university-wide issue, I want to be at the council. I want to be engaging not only those of you who cities, and but the entire council and all of your members. If there's questions that need to be answered, I want to be the person there. I want to have students see who is representing them, because we haven't gone to councils except for campaigning. We haven't really reached out to, which is unfortunate, and that's not what our organization is built on. We're better than that, and if I'm elected, we're going to reach out to councils.
You talked about a sensible motion for your graduation rates with the mandate coming from the president's office. How do you really plan on managing those expectations in the year?
What I want to focus on is advising. I know I was talking with Josh and Laura, the advising on Sunday. We were looking over the report, and it seemed to focus on for your graduation rates on a university-wide level. I don't believe that that's the best approach in terms of advising. I believe that we need to focus advising on college and school-specific level, because what's best for communication is not the same. It's not what's best for UGS or what's best for natural sciences. There is no one-size-fits-all solution at this university for any issue. And for your graduation rates and advisors.
Michael, since the culture and changing culture, I was wondering what qualities you feel a leader in success is possible.
The leader has to be welcome to go. They have to be able to connect with them. They have to treat everybody as individuals. And we cannot form cliques or divisions within an organization, because if we're divided internally, we will not accomplish what we want to. We will not be able to move forward. We will not move this university in the right direction. And I think a leader has to have always the knowledge of their own mind, but also has to be willing to sit down with the student and have a conversation with them and get to know them and get to know who they are, rather than just, simply saying hi.
Sorry, I must have, if you move to the mic, I'm having trouble.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And I do actually have a question for you.
That's why I love you.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So my question is, you mentioned a lot about bridging the gap between councils, but I want to hear more about your initiatives towards reaching out to students, the student body as a whole.
The first thing that we need to do, and I've been pushing this for 2 years, is at the beginning of the fall semester, we need to have a presence at student organization meetings, because we haven't done that. And I would say we don't need to sell Senate or sell a program or try to brand Senate. That shouldn't be the purpose. The purpose of those meetings and going to individual organizations and meeting with their members and meeting with their leaders should be to form a relationship and a trust. Because if we don't have that relationship, then why should they trust us, and how are we truly being representative of that student voice? But that's the first thing that we need to do.
Michael. And at this time, I'll introduce presidential candidate Emily Van Doon.
About 8 months ago, at the beginning of my vice presidency, I sat down to an impromptu lunch with UT System Regent. The lunch quickly became a back and forth about student issues, and as I sat there being questioned about student opinion on research, advising, ECIS, and the like, I was hit with the realization that I was no longer speaking for myself. I was speaking for the 50,000 students down Congress, past the Capitol, in the classroom, and in the lab. My job wasn't to parrot the answers the region wanted to hear, but to respect and to champion the answers I knew students supported. And that's when I fully knew that what I had been elected to do is the real thing. In my campaign, I've talked a lot about being less bureaucratic for students. And essentially that means being real. Real with how we open the doors to the end our agenda to a single student's idea. Real with how we approach the Council-Senate relationship. And real with how we use limited resources to fight for issues we know are worth fighting for. Through my years in Senate, I have seen frustrated students who want to be involved in what goes on in this room, and I don't have a real answer for them. I've seen them send a bunch of different directions that ultimately ends in handing off his or her idea only to be hijacked and sometimes not even followed through. In our efforts to be ultra productive through our committees, we've built a bureaucratic ladder rather than building a conversation. Even more, a bureaucratic process that feels prescribed or filters legislation down to the minimum of what will simply get passed. My goal through the student initiative is to open up our assembly to let students also be the agenda setters, while letting councils have full reign on the pertinence of the issue and of the solution being presented. I've seen the relationship between senates and council slip into an interaction similar to an estranged stepfamily at the dinner table. We sit here together, we sit in the same spots, we hold the same meetings, and a lot of us don't know everyone in this room. It's easy to talk about council's resources and empowering councils, and through financial support and program support, and I hold those tools to be important. But what we've missed is the opportunity to see our membership as unique and wholly democratic family that cannot match any other governmental structure on this campus. I want your council bodies to know when you take legislation back to be voted on, it's not sent to some strange office. It's championed by student leaders who are the liaisons to what it is your council say it is. I want a member of the executive board at your meetings to ensure your council members know and trust that what they're working on and voting on is just as much theirs as it is everyone else's in this room. We have real issues facing us next year, and they ask that our student leaders behave with integrity and authenticity. Looming in the sidelines, we have a new legislative year that calls for us to be more representative than ever in our Invest in Texas program. My response is to use LSO joint resolutions as a reaction to state bills to vocalize feedback from over 1,000 students rather than just one in a state senator's office. We have budget setting that calls for greater representation and feedback from our students, specifically through implementation of college-wide surveys that would give priorities and direction to town hall discussions by not wasting time on identifying problems, but getting to the solutions quicker. We have gender equity issues that have stayed on the back burner for far too long. I have issues that have pushed us to the point where we have to choose to unite as a campus and make them a priority, or to just let them play out. And I'm ready to make them a priority with you. We have issues rising from the recommendations of the task force on graduation rates that should be empowering students, like policies to help students on academic probation, that should take priority over the ones that may limit academic discovery. And we have the overwhelming issue of the distinctiveness of higher education versus high school, and the ever-changing environment that asks us to be critical of the goals and innovativeness of our core curriculum. And I want to fight for increased applicability and relevance of our courses through an expansion of the course transformation program. These are real issues, and I think we owe it to students and to ourselves to be equally real with how we approach them, how we solve them, and how we represent student voice about them. After Margaret C. Berry's interview for Integrity UT Week on Monday, she sent an email to the Academic Integrity Committee chairs and me thanking us for the event. At the bottom of the email, she signed, "Hook 'em forever." I couldn't think of a better way to sum up what the university means to me and to all of us here in this room, and why I want to serve it. Because it's hook 'em forever. It's not hook 'em for 5 years, it's not hook 'em tonight, it's hook 'em forever. If you would have asked me just 4 months ago if I wanted to run for president, I would have told you no. But it's this sentiment, this commitment to our university, now and forever, that sits in my heart as I ask to serve this assembly tonight. Because I'm looking toward the forever, and I know, and you know, that forever starts tonight. Thank you.
We'll now begin the question and answer period.
So you said that you want to be a champion for student concern, which is fantastic. But it's a lot harder, or it's a lot easier said than done. How do you go about balancing our relationship with administration, while also providing what students want to be
So I think it's kind of interesting that you bring that up, because I feel like I bring a unique perspective to that. I've served as vice president for the past year, so I've had these relationships with administrators, and I built these relationships with the provost and the vice provost and the president and the deans. And I've had these relationships, and so I think I'm in a unique position to be able to be a more assertive and more direct, because I already have the relationships established, and I don't need to waste time or take time to really build those. I think they're already there. I think we have the trust, and we even know me, and that helps. It's going to help me push the agenda and speak a little more direct for students in that concern.
did want to ask you, I guess one of the things that we've talked about a lot on Exec is getting councils to take control of the assembly. And I think one of your initiatives is pushing legislation from all types of people, regardless, to take it out of the bureaucratic process. So how do you plan to open that and really engage councils so that they can take control of the legislation that's not only debated among them, but perhaps sort of primarily written by them?
So when I was thinking about trying to make the student initiative, so I called it, a little bit more controlled so that we're not opening the floodgates and having students support with all these ideas. Like I know that would happen, I'm not sure. But I think that my answer to that is to have legislation be sponsored by at least one council. So that's how it actually works in the real House and Senate, is that the piece of the bill that's coming through either the House or Senate has to be sponsored by a legislator. My vision for that is that these people wanting to come to our assembly and present have to have at least one council sponsor. And not only does that control the flow of legislation, but it has them speak to councils about it beforehand, so we're not hearing these ideas if they're completely off the wall. We have to have at least one council say that. And I think it does give that connection a little bit to legislation that's coming through, so we're not completely discounting our council membership.
Are there any more questions for me? It's a question, answer for you. At this time, Emma, please start. At this time, we'll have 5 minutes for discussion and debate. I'm honored to introduce the new Senate and College Council's president, Mr. Michael Moore. Before we move on to the vice presidential election, I would like to ask Emily if she would like to drop down. Okay. At this time, we'll move on to the vice presidential election, and the process will stay the same, and I'll introduce Mr. Andrew Clark.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. My name is Andrew Clark, and it is an honor, and I'm honored and proud to be here before you tonight running for Vice President of the Senate and College Councils. I'm an international relations and global studies major from a very small town called Canyon Lake, and this is my second year in Senate. I first served as an at-large on the Faculty Affairs Committee, and now I serve as co-chair of the Academic Integrity Committee. In addition to my internal experience, I'm also the vice chair of the Liberal Arts CTBAC, and I sit on the Presidential Task Force on the Honor Code. I feel very privileged to be standing here before you tonight, pursuing an opportunity to represent students at a very critical point in the future of higher education in the state of Texas. I can't think of a time quite like this. We face many challenges, including a reduction in funding from the state legislature, internal changes, possible tuition increases, and a philosophical debate over the goals of higher education. In order to effectively combat these uncertainties, we must elect student leaders who are up to the task. Tonight, I'm here to assure you that I will meet these challenges, and I will work tirelessly and effortlessly to represent students in any forum, from the tower to the Capitol. Through my experiences in Senate, I've gained both an understanding and a confidence with having a seat at the table and representing students. It didn't take long to learn that, at times, student opinion may be in contrast with that of faculty and administrators, and that it quickly falls upon you as a student leader to make a decision. For example, this year as I was vice chair of the CTBAC in Liberal Arts, we were one of the only CTBACs to recommend against a tuition increase. While this may not have been news the college was excited to hear in the face of a $92 million reduction in state funding, it was my first duty to represent the students in my college who spoke out overwhelmingly against a tuition increase. Situations like this have provided me with invaluable experiences and will serve me well as Senate Vice President. While representing students on campus-wide issues is one part of the Vice President's role, my first responsibility is right here, working with members of the internal Senate and our college councils. I've been especially fortunate to work personally with leaders like Emily Van Drew and Drew Binky, who have held this position previously and provided me with excellent examples to follow. My vision for Senate will revolve around 3 points: expanding Senate's reach, engaging our councils, and ensuring committee success. Each year, Senate is able to recruit some of the best and brightest minds the university has to offer. It has been my pleasure getting to know so many of them, and the time and effort each commits to this organization is truly impressive. However, we can do even more. Our greatest recruiting push comes during summer orientation, and while it is clear we recruit superb individuals, there are so many more who slip through our fingers simply because they didn't see us. I'll expand Senate's reach by pushing for an early application process for new at-larges. This process would be open to current students, which expands our reach to student organizations, as well as provides an opportunity for collaboration amongst college councils and internal Senate. In part, as part of my effort in collaboration, I'll aim to produce more engagement in the college councils through our Senate representatives. Information coming from internal Senate can and should be delivered in a more concise and streamlined way so that we can devote more of our time to finding the needs of our councils and helping them in any way possible. Additionally, I'll solicit councils more than ever for student input on university-wide issues, and together, we will amplify the voices of our council members like never before. Finally, I will ensure that each of our internal committees has a successful year by striving to be their greatest resource. I have a full understanding of the internal structure of Senate, from the executive board to the at-larges and everything in between. I'm experienced in both programming and policy initiatives, having planned campus-wide events like Faculty Appreciation Week and Integrity UT Week, as well as authoring multiple pieces of legislation. Together with committee chairs, we will create individual action plans for each initiative they choose to undertake, which will provide greater foresight and time for planning. I'll use these experiences, along with my knowledge of institutional procedures and relationship with administrators, to keep projects moving in a timely manner and make this our biggest year yet. It's been my honor to come before you tonight. I know this organization has a very strong future ahead, and I ask you to support my candidacy for Vice President. My name is Andrew Clark, and thank you for your time.
At this time, we'll be getting 30-minute question and answer.
Sorry.
So the vice president role, as you well know, is primarily an internal role, and managing 16 years as though it's the past. But I think one of the things that we heard both presidents talk about was bridging the gap between internal and external. So what do you see as the role of the vice president in terms of bridging the gap between chairs and journalists?
Just to address that, I think one thing we can do is give our committee chairs more time to provide an update on anything they've got going on. This is something we do right now, but I think we can spend a little more time on, especially on any events they have upcoming. And one thing that we do currently, and we'll start, which I would definitely continue, is having committee chairs come to the Senate Reps meeting to discuss new legislation ideas, new events that they have going on, anything like that that helps give them early feedback and gets direct from our constituents. Yes.
So, going along with what you said, both of the positions council position. And this is how my work, and I was very curious as to how being approached as to come out. So, did you just select certain councils, or, I'm just asking this,
I did email the Senate Rep Pharmacy Council, and I sent my platform along. Unfortunately, it had been a little too late. He wasn't free, so that's really on me that I just wasn't able to get to your council. So my apologies.
Are there any further questions for Andrew?
Thank you very much.
At this time, I will introduce Ms. Hannah Tucker, Vice President of the People.
Hi, y'all. Guys, I love Senate dearly. I love the people in Senate, the friendships I built since the beginning days, the councils that I've gotten to meet this week and last week. I love what Senate can do. I believe in the mission of Senate. And from the beginning, Senate not only pushed me to be a better student, but it gave me the pride and understanding of what it means to be a Longhorn. That being said, by no means did I have the desire to run for vice president at the start of this year. I had every intention of being done after 2 years, going and doing the action program, prepping for law school, as those things go. And after a long thought and prayer and making a trip to DC over Christmas, I decided I have a lot more time left on the 40 acres, and I really wanted to use that time while I was here. After hearing Michael and Emily talk, I am very emblazoned by what Michael had to say, and I'm very passionate about him as a leader. And with all due respect, I would like to withdraw my withdraw my candidacy, because I don't want to get in his way. I think that sometimes we have conflicting visions, and I believe in Senate. I truly, truly love Senate, and I think it's so important. The work we do, especially that this is in Austin, Texas here, legislative here. And I don't want to be the reason that he has to butt head to someone or be less productive. And I want him in every capacity to be successful. So with that, I would like to withdraw my candidacy.
We still need to proceed with formalities of the process, so we will now begin a 5-minute debating session. This is the new Vice President of the Senate College Councils, Mr. Andrew Clark. Okay, we'll now move on to Financial Director election. And this time we'll bring Kendra Loftus.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm very honored to have the privilege to stand before you and to run for this Senate Financial Director position. For those of you who don't know, I've been a part of Senate and had the opportunity to be a part of Senate for these past 3 years. My freshman year, I was an at-large on the Recruitment and Retention Committee. The next year, I was a co-chair for that same committee, and of course, this year I've served as your Administrative Director. In conjunction with this, I've also had the opportunity to serve on the Liberal Arts Council for the past 3 years, so I feel I have a very good understanding of the council aspect of Senate as well as the internal structure and how that relationship should and should not function together. Most of you know my platform points, of course, appropriations transparency, the council allocation advice, and a greater role in university-wide issues. Many of you in this room actually helped me come up with these initiatives, and I really thank you for your feedback and your advice in those things. That's what I love really about the FD position. It's a position where councils and the Senate FD can come together, bounce ideas and suggestions off one another, and really function as a machine of collaboration. If I could do anything this upcoming year, it would be empower councils, empower committees, agencies, student organizations, really any entity of Senate with all the resources and help that they need. I want you to feel like you can put on events successfully and efficiently while being at ease, that you know that you have all the right funding, that you have all the right forms turned in, and everything that goes along with that process. I'll be honest, I've been in your position. I've served as a committee chair. I've had to put on events. And nothing is scarier than something coming up last minute and you not knowing if everything will pull through with the envision that you had hoped for. Given the opportunity to be your financial director, I will make sure everything is in order and in a timely manner. And if something comes up last minute, I will do everything in my power to orchestrate it so you in turn can be at ease. Honestly, I love Senate, like many before me have said. I've invested so much time, energy, and passion into this organization, and there's still so much more that I want to do and improve upon in order to represent students in the best capacity possible. I want to thank everyone in this room who has met one-on-one with me, who's allowed me to speak at your councils, who has allowed me to badger you with the numerous emails that I have sent you. I really appreciate your time and feedback, and I can guarantee I will work hard and serve to the best of my abilities if I'm given a chance to be your Senate Financial Director. Thank you.
We'll now begin 3 minutes of questioning.
Yes?
What sort of budgeting experience do you have?
That's a really great question. This past year, I've served on the executive board, so I've been around Bar-Bob a lot with those processes. I've seen a lot of the allocations going towards agencies and then putting forth with that and a lot of things in that respect. Last year, I did serve as a committee chair, so I had to put on
my own event, Ready, Set, Go. It's a college-wide readiness program. So really orchestrating everything from that, from food to having binders and really being on a set budget and having to know where that money goes. And then lastly, as a side note, I was a FIG mentor for the past 2 years, and we're also given a budget for that, and I've had a range from a small amount of people to this past year a lot of people, and I've had to orchestrate how I can use that money effectively and efficiently.
Could you talk maybe a little bit about the tangible ways that you can help councils get those forms turned in on time to make it a little bit easier?
Yes, exactly. One of my points for that is I'd really like to be as accessible as possible and have an FD orientation. This really implies where right as soon as you're put into your position, I would like to have this orientation with you and have some sort of like a tangible list that says if you're putting on something like this, you need to have this form turned in by this amount of time or stuff like that, and really go through with that. And I really understand that every council has different needs. So I'd really like to sit one-on-one with each financial director or representative as well and really go through your budget, see what reoccurring events that you have, see what vendors you've used, see what it's cost you in the past, and really look at what's coming up for you to help you spend your money. And not just spend money because you have to, but really put it towards something tangible and that you want to do.
Are there any further questions for Deidre? I think that concludes questions.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll introduce Bala Karathan.
Hi everybody, my name is Bala. I've been the Outreach and Development Co-Chair with Lynn Tucker. I've also been on the Liberal Arts CT back with Andrew Clark. I just want to thank y'all before I'm not going to take 5 minutes of your time, but I do want to thank you all for the courageous experience of my Senate career, which has been 2 weeks of being able to talk to 20 to 30 different people, hear 20 to 30 different experiences and ideas. And my vision coming into these 2 weeks, since last Thursday, has changed these 2 weeks because of you all. And I think that's the most important thing we can take away. I know we talk a lot about big councils versus small councils, or internal versus external, but it's hard for me to sometimes see this difference. Julian was a freshman, and he was an at-large in Senate. Hank, you were the R&R committee chair within Senate this last year. When was the transition between internal and external? Have you become one or the other? Is there a change? It's hard for me. Sometimes I feel like we put these barriers up and create this idea of internal and external. And the only difference I see personally, and feel free to disagree with me or tell me what you think, is information. I feel like I was the Outreach and Development Co-Chair because I had certain information, experiences, and ideas coming into this year that maybe some other people didn't have, and that they were better suited for a different position. That's the only difference between any of us in this room, is ideas, information. So the next step is, how does information get transferred? Now, I've talked to all of you guys a lot about my ideas for spending workshops, spending orientations, CTBAC and financial roundtables, things like of that nature, and those are specific things that are pertinent to the financial director role, but let's stay big picture for a while. How does information get transferred in this university if that's what we're doing to represent students? I came to you all and I was given the opportunity to speak at your councils, and the one thing I started out with that all of you may remember, positively or negatively, is I asked you all to either raise your hand or participate, or give me some feedback on whether you've heard of Senate appropriations, or the SEC grants, or the co-op grants, or different sources of funding and information in this university. Now, that wasn't just a way for me to understand where all your councils and all your constituent students were at. It was a way for me to give you all information. Information is multidimensional. Surveys are not a way to give information, but they're also a way to get information. And that's exactly what happened. I had 5 or 6 people from your constituent councils, after I got to speak at your councils, come email me and say, hey, I heard you mention something about Senate appropriations and I wasn't familiar with this. Would you be willing to talk to me next week? And that's exactly what we need to do this next year. That's exactly what I see happening. Regardless of what position I'm in, or regardless of what capacity we'll be working together, I know that that's what we're going to do. And just the bottom line of Senate is plain and simple. It's nothing complicated. It's not internal versus external. It's not big versus small. It's simply, are you representing students? Are you leaving this university a better place than you found it? And that comes from information transfer. That comes from information transfer and collaboration, not just between me and you all, but you all within yourselves. I know Kimberly Lewis talked to me about project collaboration with social work and with pharmacy, and how these sorts of ideas and events can be done in cohesion. It's hard for me to say that a council like UBC, which has a lot of resources, doesn't have ideas for undergraduate architecture council or vice versa. You all each have different experiences, 20 different experiences and ideas, and sharing those within yourselves and then sharing that with the rest of the university, opening up roundtables for the university, having deans and administrators present to talk about issues that affect us commonly. We may come to different conclusions, but we all are representing students as a whole, because it is ultimately about perception to some degree. We have CT bags not just because they're the only way to get information to and from students and to administrators, but administrators perceive that as the institutional way for us to represent students. And that needs to be different for every council, big, small, grad councils. But the ultimate goal is to have this cohesive and collaborative effort to represent students above and beyond all. And I hope to be able to work with you all in the future, and I thank you all for your time that you've given me these past 2 weeks, and I know that we'll be in touch in the future, and if you have any questions, I am done with my time right now.
And now we get 3 minutes of questions and answers.
What sort of budget experiences do you have?
Sure. So I talked a little bit about having the CT back on the CT backup for LAC, and I've worked with the Outreach and Development Committee, which our primary goal was to help fund events and do budgetary stuff for internal Senate and our internal committees. But I think my biggest experience has been starting 2 organizations outside of Senate. And as small organizations that you probably haven't heard, the Texas Microfinance Group, for one, our biggest problem was 2 things. One, information, and that comes with that. And the second part is people. It's not just about how much money and how many resources you have, but it's how can you affect students beyond that. And those are inherently tied. It's hard for me to say that one is separate from the other. But putting on events, putting on a colloquium, having these sorts of ideas outside of Senate, and when I started those organizations, I had no idea what Senate was. That was 3 years ago, right? And so going through that process and discovering that from inside and relating those together and seeing how can we better outreach to you all and to other organizations on campus, that's where I'm coming from. Does that help answer your question a little bit?
Yes.
I mean, if you have a follow-up question, if you want me to be more specific about events, I can definitely do that as well.
I was looking for just a conversation about your budget experience.
Sure, we can take it a little bit bigger picture. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you a little bit. So one thing that I talked to a lot of other counselors about, and didn't have a chance to speak with you, I know we had scheduling conflicts, it's the idea of a spending workshop and a spending orientation. And I know Barb is starting that this semester. And the next step is to not only continue those for, not just for you all, but for organizations on campus, is to do that ahead of time. Because ahead of, beyond the idea of people or resources or money, what's the most important and most valuable resource in this university? It's time. It's a limited, fixed amount, and having these sorts of events and information transfer before you guys start planning your budgets, and giving you everything you have before you guys go down the wrong path, or when you transition, which can be hard for a lot of councils, and reducing that lag time. It's all about timing. It's all about giving that information to you beforehand. And it's not about changing what we've done, it's about growing beyond it. Is that a little better?
You can answer my question however you want.
Sure, I just
you have a very, very compelling answer to my question.
I'm sorry, say that one more time. I couldn't hear you.
That was a very good answer.
Appreciate it. I'm sorry, it's a little hard to hear. But yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your, I guess just to preface, Senate kind of took into agenda to go to the committee in a different directions. Can you talk a little bit about what challenges you guys face and how you overcame them?
Sure, I think the biggest challenge we faced above and beyond anything else is this transition, is this idea of time, of lag time. Okay, I won't take more than 20 seconds. We had literally nothing ahead of us, nothing to guide us, and we had to redirect our entire goals and our vision. And the biggest thing that I could see that would help you all as councils when you transition is creating sustainable documents, flow charts on how to go about events, meeting with Veronica and filling out protocol on how to do paperwork, things of that nature that can last not 2 years or 3 years from now, but for the future of Senate, and that you can add to and that you can contribute to, because once again, it's just about collaboration. And I know each of you have ideas that other councils can benefit from, and having that discussion and conversation is the way I see Senate next year. And that's what we had to do at OED this past year.
It's my honor to introduce your new financial director for the Senate College Councils, Ms. Kendra Loftus. After the elections for this evening, congratulations to all the new elected officers and best of luck.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for taking on that process and the tedious election process that came with being the chair, so we really appreciate you. I first wanted to begin by saying congratulations to all of the newly elected officers. We will begin in the next few days a very rigorous transition process that comes with this about how many meetings can you fit into 2 weeks is kind of the moral of that story, but we will continue, this executive board will continue to work for all of you guys until April 5th when we officially transition. So I am not leaving anytime soon, and neither are any of these people at the front of the room. So please do continue your conversations with these members as well as with the newly elected members as you have new ideas for how to move Senate forward in the future. So again, thank you, Andrew, for chairing that process. We're now going to move on to open mic announcements. Does anyone have anything? Any open mic announcements? All right, we're going to move on to after meeting eating. Do the newly elected officers have any preferences for food? Okay, Michael says Trudy's will be the location for after meeting eating. We're now going to move on. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.